live events. It's essentially controlled by the moderators and by Bradley himself. So if you need a use for it, you can reach out to us. It depends on what you're doing. If you want to use a voice channel, there.
Start streaming.
Oh, Flaming Holding just posted a video. Okay. Okay, it works. It's working now.
Are we finally live? Oh my god, we're finally live.
There
All
we
right.
go. Oh, how do you create one for your own server? So you make a, I think it's called a stage. So when you're
Yes.
making a new channel, you want to make a stage.
I
There
don't.
are voice channels, which are normal ones. There
You.
are text channels, which you should be familiar with. And this is a stage, which you can set permissions for. We have it on this server that only moderators and Bradley can interact with it for the most part. On this, they should be able to do that.
Yeah. You might have to be a community Discord for that. Don't quote me. But don't be surprised if you don't see it. And you're looking for it. But yeah, it's a stage. These are really cool. Hello, Bradley. Are you interested in coming to chat with us? Maybe. Also, hello, YouTube audience. Thank you so much for coming through. If you're watching us live or on playback later, we appreciate you all the same. Sorry about the technical difficulties. As always, we're here on time and ready to go, and OBS just didn't wanna stream. I don't know, man. Don't ask me. Blame the ingest server. But yeah, with that being said, we've got a couple of things to go over with you today. One of which is just kind of a run back on the stuff that we posted in the most recent Kickstarter update, as well as some other fun little side tangents, and at the end, a sneak peek of some of the Rui artwork that will be appearing on her game card. So that is going to be very exciting. Fern, did you want to run over? Hold on. Did you have any actual? Because I didn't read the chat. Did you have any questions that were related to Claudia that you wanted to answer from that, or rehash so that the people on the recording can hear them?
There was nothing really karate related in terms of the questions, so we'll just go over. I mean, there was a question about projects, like how all the projects are going. So we'll answer that with the karate side here now. For the most part, we're getting things ready for printers. We did a huge text pass recently where we essentially read every piece of text, every line on every card, everything in the book. And we went through and checked for consistency, for interpretation of localization, like everything that you would expect to be in there. We're making sure it's clear, consistent, and following our standards in terms of what we want to be on the cards. All of that means that we need to now insert all those text changes in the cards. Almost every card, well, every card got looked at. A lot of them got changed, and just like slight things. Nothing mechanically really big changing, and
All
there's nothing that we
purely
have.
wording and consistency.
Yep, it's not too much that to go wrong in this step of the process, but we do need to make sure that gets done. So we're going through each piece of the cards and making sure that we have the updated assets for everything, so we can send them to the printer and get print samples. Because, and this is something I've learned before with some of our previous projects, is if you send them something to print a sample for and then you change it later, sometimes they never update their files, and we want to try to avoid that as much as possible so that we don't end up with incorrect files from the printer side. So making sure we have everything finalized on our end first is probably the go-to plan here.
Excellent. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, so I guess we'll jump right on into our most recent Kickstarter update. For those of you that did not see that or get the email or notification or whatever, definitely check out the Wild Hunt Festival Chronicles Kickstarter page. We posted an update there. I believe it was on Thursday or Friday, something like that. That update went live, and we did a boss spotlight on the Plant Chimera, which I believe you guys saw in one of our recorded live plays. That is a fun little I'm not going to go over that right now. You can go ahead and read that and check out the boss and its unique mechanics and some other things in there. But yeah, the update contains that. The project update that we just gave you just now is on there as well. And we also went over, what is the last thing I'm missing? Ah, yes, the stories, or should we say the tales from Kradia is what we're calling it on the website. Chapter 3, which you may be saying, what the heck, where's chapter 1 and 2? They are also available on the wildhuntfestival.com website. So if you're not there yet or checking into that, definitely go ahead and take a look. We've posted some extra story content for you to be able to kind of sink your teeth into and interact with while we're waiting for some of the rest of the stuff for the game to get done and ready to go. We'll be updating that as we go. The story there, we'll go into a little bit of a deeper thing here in a minute, but basically covering the tales of Rui and Haruno, the two main characters from An Aria of Light and Shadow, as they adventure and travel through, as they train at the Parali Academy to become full-fledged adventurers. And if, Fern, you want to jump into that now, we can go ahead and kind of slide right on in.
So this story's been a lot of fun to write, and it's been a lot of fun to like engage in the world of Kradia, and I hope that you all feel that too, because the world of Kradia is really cool. All the characters are really interesting, and we all thought it was a really good opportunity for us to explore that world outside of just the game itself, because the game is great, and we all really enjoy the game in terms of how you play it, how you feel playing a kind of like puzzle boss battler. It's really awesome. Uh, but it leaves a little bit of the story to the side because it focuses on the gameplay. So we thought, why not? Let's write some stories, dig into some of the lore, some of the characters that we're working with. So this story takes place technically in the past, right, as they're training to become adventurers. And we're walking through their experiences at the academy, their experiences under their mentor Kreia, their experiences going out to a location which is going to become relevant with the Rights of Nature part of the Donkey Server Brigade expansion. The characters from that thing, they're referenced in, I believe, chapter 2 is when they get mentioned. So we're exploring some of the lore, some of the character themings, origins, how they interact with each other, what Parali means in the greater Kradia continent in terms of it being the main place that the adventurers come from, and where other cities and locations can exist. Everything that you could think about in exploring a vast open world like this. I don't want to say open world in that kind of context. We're not making an open world game. But the Karate continent is huge. If you've seen the map of it from the first release of the game, I think we have another map of Karate continent as well coming in the Anniversary Edition box and probably in the Donkey box as well. So there's a lot to explore, and we wanted to explore that with you and see how some of the characters go about their life in this continent with monsters all around. And that's one of the things we wanted to show you here. It's also just a bunch of small insights into the way that we think about the world and the way that we think about characters and how they can learn and grow in this world.
Yeah, excellent. And if you've read some of the chapters that we've got out so far, I personally am a huge fan of what we're kind of building up towards and have shown off so far. Personally, I'm really excited to see, where this kind of like tumbles into the setup for Aria of Light and Shadow, but I'm also really excited to kind of take another step back and actually get like a real bird's eye view on like some of the characters that we've seen already in base Wild Hunt Festival actually doing, whatever it is that they do. So I think we've got a lot of really fun avenues to explore.
Yeah, I believe we threw in Erasa at some point.
Mm-hmm.
As
I think
a
that was
figure.
chapter 3, or am I spoiling chapter 4?
I think it was chapter 2.
I'm gonna
He's
keep
leading
getting them mixed
another
up.
group of adventurers. He's leading another group of adventures.
Yeah, but shout outs to him. He makes
so we saw him briefly.
He makes an appearance.
Yeah. It was really fun to be like, oh, all right, we need mentor figures that would take, these trainees and take them on an adventure that is relatively safe, but something where they could, go outside the walls of Ferali and actually, be an adventurer in some ways rather than be stuck in a city. I was like, well, who does that? I was like, well, Arase, he kind of leads the Chidori branch. He's a former retired adventurer, no longer retired,
I know the
or
perfect
something like that.
contractor for the job.
Right? It's like, oh yeah, let's bring him back in. I'm sure he'd love to teach budding adventurers about the outdoors and about like, what to do on the trail and all that stuff. So that
Absolutely.
was a really cool way to bring in someone who already existed rather than throw in a bunch of new characters because we already have a bunch of new characters we're dealing with. You've got Rugen Haruno who we're exploring, Kreia who is kind of their idol in this situation.
Yeah.
She's she's a really interesting character who we've managed to cook up for this. Um, and I think the main theming that I try to emphasize with her is the fact that she's kind of stuck inside Parali. Like her armor is too polished. She never goes outside. She's a political head figure, but she doesn't want to be those things. She likes being an adventurer.
Right.
And so exploring like these subtle things, you can't really do that in the game. The game isn't about that. Uh, It isn't about someone being a political figure or, not being able to go outside. It's about fighting monsters outside. And so seeing that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, I think it's really neat that even for a character who we've now sufficiently name dropped and like isn't in the game yet, wink, has this kind of like characterization that kind of just comes out of like she, like you said, is an idol to the girls, but she's also an idol like within Parali and like the Adventurers Guild as a whole. And she's got all of this and all of the microcosms of what that character will be, could be, should be, would be are all in your head right now. And I think that's really neat as a way to like get people to be interested in how the stories in this universe are going to formulate.
Yep. And we'll be continuing to add more. I believe the target right now is at least one story a month, sometimes two. Don't count on that. But
Yeah.
roughly one story a month as we'll delve into this. Eventually, we'll finish the arc of Rui and Haruno in their training, and we'll go on to something else. I do want to expand the idea of the carnival as we go on too. That was a really nice addition in the third chapter. Was the idea of a traveling carnival that goes outside of Claudia even to make money and hunt new monsters to showcase to the public. So you might be seeing some more from them. You might be seeing some more from that strange hooded figure. You might be seeing some more from Matsuri even, as we explore her interactions with the specific illness that hasn't been too expanded upon yet.
Yeah, there are lots and lots of ways to go. And of course, look forward to the climax of this story arc and how, like I said before, that kind of tumbles into what you'll be experiencing with the mini expansion Aria of Light and Shadow. So that's going to be really neat. What else? Looking forward to, we mentioned before that we want to make sure that the character booklet from the base game comes back and is updated with the new characters from the new content. So also very looking forward to being able to write those blurbs and kind of have them, help mold out some of these new characters in both in their respective places and also, maybe make some fixes or changes to the original characters with respect to how they're actually affecting the story of the overall universe. I'm sure we'll be taking a separate look at them and probably either making changes or making updates if need be. But I think it'd be really cool because we are gonna have. Are we doing that the character booklet the same size as the original?
I think we're expanding the character booklet to be a little bit bigger and putting two entries on a page. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
We're looking at options. We're looking at options for the character booklet. Not, I think nothing is going to be in that size anymore. It used to be A6.
Right. But
We're trying to
too
move away
tiny.
from that 'cause it's a little bit small, especially with the expanded components. Um, we're going to readdress the character booklet, and you might see some entries on the original characters change. That's partially because Ramo himself is going to be shifting some of the character themings about it. It's partially because we're just going to go in and make sure that we're cleaning up everything on it. Um, and also just to fit the new vision of the world as Ramo is making it, because he's decided to take on this vision of the world more completely than before. So there are going to be some things that he wants in this universe that are going to conflict with the way the original character booklet was written. Was I believe that was mostly a Bradley thing at the time.
Yes, it was.
Don't call me on that. Also, it was not wholly formed back in the original release. So those things might change. Our goal is to keep it looking similar, to keep most of the themes the same. Have the characters really showcase who they are and why they exist in this world and what their motivations are, and then to add in the new characters. You'll get probably 2 character booklets if you're getting the Chronicles edition, one for the anniversary and the Aria, and then the Donkai. Actually, you might get 3 books now that I think about it. No, you'll get 2. One for the anniversary edition, one for Donkai and Aria. So if you got the Chronicles edition, you'll receive both books. If you got Donkai and Aria as that bundle, you're gonna get the Donkai Aria booklet. Those will be the Aria characters will be added into the Donkai booklet just because that keeps everything a little bit nicer in terms of how we formulate everything and group everything together. So you'll get a brand new character booklet with Donkai, and then I believe we're going to be adding entries for Lemugia into the character booklet for Anniversary Edition.
There's no
'Cause
reason not
why
to
not?
if she doesn't have one already.
Exactly. I don't think she has one.
There's a whole
So we'll be adding
written
new
lore
entries.
from her that I'm sure we could, even
Yeah.
even considering she is a what most would consider a alternate art or like an alternate like universe character, no reason not to give her a little lore drop in there.
So we'll be adding all those in. Some of that stuff still needs to be done. But for the most part, it's just formatting it. We need to meet up with Win and decide how we're going to put everything on the page. Right now, we're focusing on the actual game components. The book is great, but it is not, 100% necessary to play the game.
Yes, of course. And like we've said before, that one is really just inserting the text on the pages and making sure it's formatted in the same way that that Ramo had originally envisioned that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think that more than covers like game updates, etc., and lore and whatnot. So let's jump over to the other things that we have planned for this evening. One of which is a little discussion on party compositions.
Oh, yeah.
You'll notice that I named this episode a little funkily. Usually I rely on Fern for that creativity, but I came up with this one myself, proud of it. And we're going to be going over people's thoughts and ideas and strategies when it comes to forming certain party compositions. Now, of course, this is what I would say the creme de la creme that, 50% of the creme de la creme. Listen, I love Wild Hunt Festival for all of its parts. However, I do think building parties and strategies is, at least in my game sense, one of the most enjoyable things other than, I guess, fighting the boss, right? I love to look at a boss and say, all right, can I, right out the get-go, counter something that this guy does or bring something that's going to give me a unique advantage? Obviously, with Donkai Survey Brigade in the Rights of Nature section of that, we've introduced a lot of ways to gain unique advantages. For example, with Myra, any boss that throws an ailment at you, you're giving yourself an advantage because you're going to be able to do more damage in return. But of course, high risk, high reward. For the base game, we had a lot of different things. For example, Totevem Challenge Mode, his opening attack was just poison the party. So you may be thinking, all right, well, poisoning the whole party, that's easy enough. Just look for heroes that resist poison. To which I say, I think the only one in the base game was Matarado? Pretty sure Matarado has poison resistance. Does Okla have it too?
I think it's 2. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna pull up all the characters and I'm gonna do the thing. All right, we're doing the thing. Hold on. Get the box
All right, while
out.
Jake's doing that, I wanted to expand on something he said earlier. Uh, so there's an interesting thing in games where if the game gets you to think about the game when you're not playing it, a lot of the times that means it's a good game. Uh, I think an example of that I have or I had is with Magic the Gathering, where a lot of times like 80% of the fun of Magic the Gathering is thinking about the decks you want to build, and only like 20% is playing the game. And that actually tips a little bit too far
Rough.
into the not playing the game than playing the game.
That
Uh,
is rough.
with Wildland Festival, it's always, oh, I could put this team together. And then you're thinking about how you would play it, but then you really want to just play it through something. And then you have this whole experience where you're working through the ins and outs of your team. And then you're like, awesome. Maybe I could play it against another boss, or maybe I can do another team. That's a really cool way to expand upon it. Uh, so in terms of Wild and Festival in the way that engages the player's mind, I think it manages this neat balance of thinking about the game outside of playing the game and also playing the game as being an engaging part of it. Uh, right? So like team competitions are a really easy one to think about. Do I take one healer? Do I take two healers? Do I take zero healers and go aggressive? Right? All these things like are really neat to think about. And while you could theory craft all day long, Wildland Festival is a much more practical game when you play it out. So it's easy to go with the theory, test it out, and go through it. You don't have to goldfish 1,000 different situations against 1,000 different opponents. It's just, all right, let's throw it at a boss and see what happens.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I was correct. The only hero from the base game that resists poison is Matarado.
Ah, see, I thought Okla did.
No, Okla resists sleep.
Ah,
Yeah. So, that. I make that claim, right? About, like, look at the boss. All right. He applies, like, only poison or only paralysis or, like, only mental ailments. And that's kind of surface level, right? Like, you're looking at me and you're like, wow, Jake, I could think of that too. I think another route that is really interesting in this game is exactly what Fern just brought up. And it's not just, okay, can I bring, like, no healers and, like, just kill this boss really fast? Or can I, like, for example, when we had when we still had the Lemugia mistranslation, or I'm gonna say pre-errata, actually. Pre-errata might be better. When we had the old Lemugia challenge mode pre-errata, the strategy that I had confound was, like, the ultimate turtle strategy, where you bring, like, two healers, you bring Urase, and I don't even remember who my fourth was, but it was probably Luca. And you just turtle up and pray you can, like, 1-1-1-1 the boss down all the way through her health bar, and that just wound up never working. However, it was the farthest I had gotten during the pre-errata era. And, like, I don't think that Wild Hunt Festival, like, shows off a lot of its, like, really granular interactions in a comp like that, but I had no idea that I was going to make it as far as I did, running something that seems so, like, don't interact with the boss. So, all that
yeah,
to be
well,
said,
because that's the main point of the game, right?
yeah, there are very, very many combinations you can bring into battle here. And I think that your experience with each boss, not just the game itself, your experience with each boss changes depending upon who you have on your team. And,
Yeah.
like we'll continue to say, with every new character comes more of those possibilities. Because now you can turn around into some of the base game content and be like, all right, Matsuri is super big here. Or, like, Kemuri would be a really neat way to, like, tank, like, a super strong hit from this boss and then flip it back around and have three attackers per se.
Right, like that would be a really interesting thing against Killer Rabbit, where you could say, all right, we need to rush down Killer Rabbit, but then we need to be able to tank
The stage transition.
the phase 2 switch, because it does like 8 damage or something like that.
Yeah, he's like 8 or 10
But then once we
damage
tank
to the
the phase
highest
2
HP.
switch, But then once you tank the phase 2 switch, you can go straight into damage.
Right.
So that might be a neat application.
Trying to look at the.
And lots of my team compositions that I have evidence for are from the original cast of 10 against the original bosses. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But there's a lot of interesting things you can do with the new characters that, of course, we've had a lot more time to test with.
Exactly. I'm gonna jump into my old chat where I took a screenshot of every boss that I beat with every team composition to see if I find anything fun. Let me
Yeah.
scroll through that. Let's see.
Jake and I also took a really different approach to this in that once I landed on a team comp that I liked, I used it against every boss. Jake, I think, has created a different comp for every boss.
That is definitely the case. Every boss I take from like a different perspective. Obviously with that first thing in mind, like, okay, do I need insane survivability? My comp's gonna have 2 healers. Can I maybe squeeze in like the utility that Arase offers? I'll try to bring him. I want to say in most of my base game compositions, Arase was not there, but again, I could be wrong while I scroll through these images.
He's useful.
Yes, he is. He is very useful. I said, or when we went over the new characters last time, I do think that his upgraded skill 2, I think that gives him 4 HP back, is going to be massive.
Yeah, so his upgraded skill 2 and his synergy with Matsuri specifically,
Yes.
I think elevate him to level of defender that we needed the whole time.
Right. So if you take the Matsuri skill 3, right, and you use Death on the Line for that poison immunity, then he's already resistant to paralysis, so he becomes this, like, perfect defender. Where, like, no physical ailment could ever bog him down. And then if you actually, need to heal him, he can do it, or your healer can do it, and then it just becomes like a really just literally probably an impenetrable barrier as often as you can press Titan Shield.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, is he's really good at protecting the one target. I don't want to say Titan Shield is that spammable, because at best you can use it every other turn. But being able to use it on specifically your one squishy healer that outputs healing to everyone except themselves is a very useful tool. So if you put the Urase and Matsuri comp together, Matsuri will help top everyone else up. Urase will keep Matsuri from being exploded, and then you have a really nice cushion there to throw in maybe 2 attackers, maybe a specialist. I don't know. It reminds me of the old double healer comps, but instead of the second healer, you have Arase.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's kind of it's weird to say the meta game, but I feel like that's for the most part what people like got comfortable with, right? Like a lot of these bosses, you look at their attacks, right, and they either hit really hard on one guy or hit really wide on the entire party, or like more than 1 or 2 units. And in reacting to those kinds of attacks, more often than not, there's a healer that's better for one of those 2 jobs. So you either have to take one of like Monada or Galateo, or you just bring both of them. Looking at a fight that I actually think changes how I interpreted that was Summer Buster from the second DLC, which I think is, rather than like play it safe against this boss, is mow him down as fast as you can. You've got 38 HP to work through, and every time what is the trigger on that? Is it every
Okay, he's got some conditions. There's one that happens guaranteed. There's
his
one that
overdrive,
happens during sun.
He's got overdrive, rolls a 7. And then 1 through 3, 4 through 6 if you are on sun, and the rage as well if you're on sun.
Yeah.
So more often than not, right, if you're trying to play that like usual Kradia or that usual Wild Hunt Festival like strategy of keeping the dice low and making sure that you're not like you're mitigating as much damage from the boss as you can, this guy is still powering up. So even his like, oh, I hit the main guy for 1, oh, I hit the main guy for 2 and stun him or something. Those are going to be hitting for 4s and 5s by the time you're on the last health bar. So the faster you get rid of him, the better. And I actually think he's one of my favorite bosses to fight because in our clear screenshot, we're running 3 DPSs and Elizabeth.
That's wonderful.
There's no support outside of her. And we probably
Really?
did was we probably used like Cloudy Sea and evaded one of the last big hits and just killed him like outright.
Yeah.
Right, I see Matarado here. I see Thoro here. Who is that last one? I can't really see it in the screenshot. Oh, okay, we did have a healer. Last one was Summer Lemugia.
Okay.
But she's a different case, though.
She's an interesting healer.
She's still kind of like she's a healer, but I don't even know, because we had 2 characters dead at the end. So I don't know if she was really being used for healing, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely...
I think my clear shot of that looks the same as every other clear shot. I think my team ended up taking that down.
let him power up Luca repulsor limit and die to reflect 20.
Yeah.
Oh, good times. Let's see what else here.
So on that, what is, I think, your favorite team comp that you've encountered in your playthroughs?
Oh, jeez. I've got a few. I think earlier on, I really enjoyed having Elizabeth on the team, because I liked that, like, being able to... So if you ran Elizabeth and you ran 1 healer and you've got, like, 2 DPS, right? Elizabeth's job is to kind of, like, look at the 2 damage-dealing characters and say, okay, which of you is going to go for the bigger hit next, and which of you can I warm up for their next, to try to kind of, like, help ramp them. So I think I really appreciated having her, and specifically in another clear shot I see here, I see her, Matarado, Galateo, and Thoro. And I think my favorite comp from the base game, if I had to just piece it together in my head, is probably like double healer, and I'm like totally side tangenting now. Double healer, Matarado, double healer, Matarado, and Thoro.
Really?
This is a very strange take, but I think during our early times with the game, hitting for 5 is kind of like, you did your job, the boss should be dead by now.
Yeah.
I definitely...
2 attackers that I never play.
Thoro is extremely useful because the whatever the name of her skill 1 is, charge attack with +1 damage no matter what. That's already huge, especially on a miss, because I think her 6 is a miss enhanced 2. And also, obviously, Dragon's Blood, which keeps her immune from death for a turn, or, the withstand death effect. And I think that is more flexible than you'd think, because you really don't have to look at her as long as she's holding on to 1 blue mana. If you plan way ahead, you can really abuse that and have like an extra turn and like be able to use your resources elsewhere as a healer. So, like I was saying before, Matarado, definitely not on my favorite character tier list, was probably in my most used in the original cast for the big damage. Yeah. So, sorry I jumped back and forth a bunch of times, but it's the dual healer and dual DPS. It's probably Thoro, and maybe Matarado, depending upon the fight. So if you had to decide what is your favorite comp, I think we already know the answer, but I'm going to ask for posterity.
Okay, so I came across this team comp essentially, I want to say after playing through story mode once or twice and a couple challenge modes. This was relatively early into my career in Wild and Festival playing the game. Um, is double healer. I don't know if this is really the meta. I mean, Jake and I kind of both focus on double healer a lot. Uh, but again, I was working with the original cast of 10, so I didn't even have Summer of the Mugia at this point. Uh, it's put Monad and Galateo on a team because health is nice. And then you run Luca as a specialist. Uh, you've used Luca specifically for repulsor limit. The idea being that Luca can kind of do damage, kind of gain mana. It doesn't really matter. Clockwork Knights are weird and hard to sustain. They're easier to sustain now, by the way, since we cleared up a wording on them. Uh, but either way, it's kind of anti-synergistic with repulsor limit in a way, because if you take less damage with repulsor limit, you're dealing less damage back. So it's now a more reasonable trade-off to think about. But the main plan is you take repulsor limit, you use it, you take as much damage as possible, so you deal as much damage to the boss as possible, and Luca maybe dies, maybe doesn't. Who cares? If Luca dies, you resurrect and you repeat the cycle. If Luca doesn't die, you heal them back up, and then you do it again. Um, and that's only three characters. The fourth character is a tech slot. So the fourth character is either Elizabeth, because she's a really good battery and buffer for a lot of characters. She can give 2 mana, which is really nice for Galateo, who uses 4 to resurrect. She can give a basic attack buff, which is kind of useful. I really focus when I'm playing Elizabeth on giving Monad and Galateo mana,
Sure,
because
right?
having access to their skills is really useful. And then you have Fantasy of the Cloudy Skies, which is just good for like if the boss is gonna do a team-wide thing. Uh, so all of Elizabeth's utility is really good there. Or the second option is playing Kune as an attacker. And you use Kune for, again, the utility slot, which is really interesting because she's an attacker. Uh, she's got damage. She's got some useful self-mitigation in terms of like you can roll evasion on her charge attacks. But it's mainly for Shadow Gambit, or Gambit of Disruption, not Shadow Gambit.
Yeah.
Uh,
We've been saying that one way
with
too
the
much.
ability we've been saying Shadow Gambit. I think she's got like Shadow something on her skill too, or something. It's Gambit of Disruption.
Shadow Dimension.
Uh,
Dimension.
Shadow Dimension. So Gambit's really useful in terms of like removing options from the boss, because you get to choose which die you remove. A lot of the times it lets you pick what attack the boss can do, and you might be thinking that's kind of weird and that's kind of not very useful. But if you got a boss that has like a 10 through 12 that does a lot of damage to one target, that's a great thing you can fish for repulsor limit. So Gambit becomes a way to get your repulsor limits to be more reliable, which helps you do more damage with Luca. Uh, so Kuna becomes like an off DPS slash support in that comp, which is kind of the way Elizabeth works in that comp. So they're kind of interchangeable, and I pick whichever one I'm feeling the best with in terms of what I'm playing with.
Yeah.
So that's the team comp. I have essentially used that comp against every boss. We've used it against the new bosses coming in, Donkai Shadow Brigade, or Donkai Server Brigade, because basically whenever I see a new boss, I'll throw that comp at it. Even if we're trying to test out new characters, I'll throw this comp at it at least once. Uh, because it's a really good baseline. It almost clears everything if you pilot it correctly. I think I struggle with like 1 or 2 bosses in particular, but it's a very solid comp that I use to like baseline the boss design.
Yeah. So that's really fun, right? Like, two probably totally different ways to play the game. But they accomplish the same thing, right? They're both like really successful, really hard hitting in strange ways. And I think that's really awesome that like that kind of thing has molded its way out of a seemingly strange character like Luca. And I can only hope that with these new characters and the characters coming in the future that we find more of those interactions, right? Like, sure they're characters that are coming from us, but like I'm hoping that someone will look at it with the same eyes that we had on the base game and will go, oh my god, this character from like 2 years down the line does this insane thing with a base game character, and it's just like magical
Hmm.
fireworks. Um,
Right. Because, when we're designing these things, we do think about some of these opportunities that players could come across, but we're not going to catch everything, right? Like, I'm sure Rama, when he was designing these characters, did not think about, like, oh, yes, Luca can just use repulsor limit without any sort of sense of consequence and
right.
just heal him back up, and that's the way you do damage. Uh, that probably wasn't thought about in terms of design. I can't guarantee that, but like there are these things that the players will find that we won't intend, that are completely fine, that are just going to be really cool things to explore with these characters. I think the way we've been designing new characters allows for people to engage in that sort of way. We're trying not to like box people in. A lot of our characters, especially with Rites of Nature, have this kind of like cohesive theme and kit to them, but they aren't like constricted to that kit. Like Myra is very kit focused, but each part of her kit is individually very interesting to explore outside of it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that her like gameplay style is very interesting and kind of like I could, it all when you look at it, right? It's kind of like okay, the name of the game is obviously get ailments, send them back. But like not every intricacy is purely focused around her doing that. Right, like you've got Elixir of Fortitude and Cloud of Confidence, and now I'm gonna go look at them because I don't want to
I
forget.
think it's Elixir of Confidence, not of Fortitude.
Thank you. Yo, did I say them backwards? Um, but yeah, like I'm sure her gameplay style may be to like take ailment, reverse it, throw it back. But also, experimental brew gives her +3 basic attack buff. Like with Elizabeth, you could very easily before the next round make that 4. Or, she's just gonna punch really hard, and then when you need it, you can call in, the ailment squad. Or you can have the healers totally clear those ailments, and now she's just punching for almost the amount of damage that Matarado can do with one skill. Um,
Battery skill, I believe, is a little more efficient, but whatever.
yeah, but
It's,
that's the
yeah.
idea, right? Like, in my composition, for a base game fight, I never ever would have taken Suika. However, she is like one of my favorite characters from the base game. And I
Hmm.
wish that she had better interactions with the cast currently. But who's to say that that kind of thing, wouldn't explore down the line, right? If a character
We actually
had
have something that interacts well with Suika down the line too. Yeah.
exactly. So there's
Yeah.
there's that kind of thing, and we haven't even talked about nightmare mode, or like nightmare boss compositions yet, where I think she shines the most. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, so I think that there's a lot of interesting depth in the base game in terms of like what kind of compositions you can make, the character interactions and things like that. But there is way more coming with each individual character that gets added to the game. And I do hope, that you guys are interested in the flavors of, I'm going to say specifically the attackers. I hope you're really interested in the flavor of utility that, like, the upcoming Rui and Haruno will give you, because I think that they're really neat. That they add interesting ways to do a lot of damage and also, feel fun to play. I do like that,
Yeah.
like, slightly specialist, mostly attacker idea.
Yeah. And that brings us, I guess, the future part of team compositions. Let's just take a look at each of the new characters and talk about where you think they'd fit in terms of like buddies on a team comp. So
Absolutely.
let's just start with the Donkai Server Brigade characters. Galateo SB. Who's his best partner?
Oh, who's his best partner? If I had to pick, okay, well, if I had to venture a guess as to who the best partner for ye old Galateo Survey Brigade, he is a healer, but I think that his best partner is someone who can. Oh, actually, he gives a lot of mana. I'm like looking at his skills right now too. Right,
Mhm.
Reversed Moon, Hidden Arcana gives someone else 3 mana for the cost of his 2. He gets a lot of mana back. Who is his best
So
partner? Original Galateo.
that's what I was thinking. Okay, so the thing about this Galateo is it's very niche. So like his healing and his mana gain and most of his options are locked to like field conditions. So you're not guaranteed to get anything. So most of the time, Galateo SB as a healer is best as a secondary healer.
Right.
So you need to partner him with a healer. I'm thinking either Monad for the consistent mana distribution or Galateo Original for just that like really useful concept. Unfortunately, if you're running Galateo, you have kind of low ailment clear, so I think maybe Monad a little bit more, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely another healer, which is interesting because Galateo SB kind of doubles down on that double healer comp.
Yeah, which is really funny. But the way that I look at it is, he's got 2 abilities or 3 abilities on his charge attack that give him mana. Uh,
Mhm.
Upright Moon gives you 2 of either color. Reversed Sun gives you an enhance, and Reversed Star gives you miss enhance 2. So if you think about it like this, he's what on average with the correct battlefield distribution and correct turn order, you're looking at like anywhere between like 3 and 4 mana on average over like the course of 2 to 3 turns. So if you think about it, and he caps out his red if you're really lucky, then you can pop a Noir Putrefaction from old Galateo and just spend 5 mana to do damage and like heal for 10.
Yeah.
A
Yeah, and
extremely
it's really
weird
interesting to explore.
like thing to consider though, because that's like a massive
Yeah.
setup.
Another interesting thing to talk about in terms of that is secondary healers.
Yes.
So, we've talked about this a lot. Is that there's like this weird slot about primary healers and secondary healers. Galateo SB very much feels like a secondary healer. We have another secondary healer coming in the future, that I think pretty much fits a secondary healer role as opposed to a primary. And of course, secondary healers kind of double down on that double healer comp in the fact that you need to run 2 healers sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, we don't want to encourage always running 2 healers. We might do that in practice, but we don't want to say you have to run 2 healers in this game. You could run one. Um, there are characters who could be primary healers. Matsuri is a great example of that. Monad is a great example of that. Galateo Original is pretty much like he can be a primary healer.
I would argue he
Uh,
does both
we
jobs extremely well. The reason I
yeah
would classify him as a pseudo secondary healer is because of his multi-target ailment clear.
yeah. So there's really options for that, and we don't want to pigeonhole everyone into running 2 healers, but there are going to be some secondary healers coming in the future, and we're going to try to avoid making every healer a secondary healer.
Right, right. I think the next one that we have coming is, yeah, you're absolutely right. She feels a little bit more like a secondary healer, and but like this Galateo
I
could
don't know,
be.
actually. She might be okay
She might be okay as a
primary.
and that's again that's you look at the old Galateo problem. He can do both jobs. So you could just run him alone or Monad alone, because right the
Hmm.
primary healers, quote unquote, should be able to do their jobs alone. The reason why we talk about the comps having secondaries is because sometimes you need extra like ailment clear, or like you take a secondary healer because you need like burst healing in a certain situation, and like their job is to just do that interaction throughout the fight.
The other thing that you need to think about is secondary ailment clear, and secondary healers always have that.
Yes.
Because if your healer has a mental ailment, uh, and you don't have anyone else that gets rid of mental ailments, that's also why Elizabeth is really good, by the way. Uh, you can't get rid of that mental ailment,
Yes. Also,
which means your healer can't do anything the rest of the game.
yeah, shoutouts to Okla's time reading dove. Another like
Yeah.
super like seemingly niche pick, but a way to get your healer out of a bind.
March of
But
the
that's,
Nameless.
yes, March of the Nameless too, but that's only for mentals though, right?
Yeah.
If you're playing like Monad and Old Galateo, who are mana dependent to their charge attack, and they get paralyzed, and they can't get it off themselves, you're in a really sticky situation really fast.
Hmm.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
overall, Galateo Survey Brigade's best buddies, I would say, are either primary healers or characters that are like relatively mana efficient. Characters that can like do their own thing without needing the support of a healer. So honestly, probably a tank,
Yeah.
right? Like Arase is probably gonna see play with Galateo Survey Brigade. Is my like
Probably.
headcanon there.
I think another healer most likely works better with him, but yeah, I could see Urasa working.
Yeah.
All right. Charlona.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So the way I feel about Charlona is, you know, and we just talked all this about Elizabeth and being a battery and like giving other characters what they need to do their work. I think that's what
That
I'm gonna
was
say.
going to be my answer as well,
And and
Elizabeth.
and here's the thing. In all of my testing games so far, I've not put Elizabeth on the table. I think I need to sit down and have Elizabeth in a game with Charlona to really see her shine, because her kit kind of requires her to have just a little bit more mana, and if she's alone in doing that, she falls off the curve pretty hard of like being able to like
Yeah.
consistent damage and like even being able to like have her third skill online.
Hmm.
So my answer,
Any of her skills,
Elizabeth.
honestly.
Right, right.
Yeah. I was definitely gonna say Elizabeth is probably the best enabler for her because you just need to have a little bit more mana in your tank in order to use the skill one to get your sword charges in the correct angle that you need them to be,
Right.
and then that
And
unlocks
one
your skills
damage.
2 and 3.
Oh, no, sorry. I was just saying one damage isn't always like within the threshold of like getting the right element,
Yeah,
and then you're stuck.
exactly. Yeah, so I think Elizabeth is a really nice battery for her. It probably helps. Martian Manus probably helps too. Just being able to do 2 actions, be like, oh yeah, sword charge, 2 mana, then 1 mana. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sword charging on
yeah,
two separate actions to get multiple elements is massive and would be insane.
yeah. So definitely I agree with you there, and I think people might want to look into that to explore it because a lot of the times in our practice with Charlona, she's been a little rough around the edges. And a lot of that's because you either don't have enough action economy to like get your mana. Well, it's really you don't have enough action economy to get your mana and then get your charges, and then you have to line them up correctly. A lot of times I'd end up with like earth and wind, which you can't use together. So like
Yeah,
you need to be able to line that up, and having 2 extra mana from a War of the Dragon Slayer might help you there.
100%. So yeah, that is a excellent question and answer.
Yeah. Okay. Continuing with Dankai Server Brigade. Matsuri.
Uh Matsuri. The best, oh man. The best application I can think for Matsuri is either going to be Myra, because you automatically apply poison and paralysis on your big heal, or Arase,
Yeah, I was
right?
thinking Urasa.
And I think a lot of that stems from, well, here's another thing, right? Matsuri is definitely like through and through a primary healer. Her mana efficiency is really good. Like, get clears, like, you know, checks every box that you would want out of a healer, and has one slight detriment that could actually be used in your favor. And in terms of Arase, it's the only detriment. And immediately he fixes that as long as Matsuri takes the correct skill 3.
Like even if she takes the wrong skill 3, Urasa can clear that whatever element you
Right.
have
He can clear
with skill 2.
the poison with 1 mana.
Yeah. So you have two characters that kind of just ignore the poison already, and then you have the primary. There's like two primary detriments to Matsuri. One is that you get like 2 ailments, and you can only get rid of one of them with Matsuri skill 3. Uh, and the other being that Matsuri doesn't heal herself.
Yes.
She has a heal over time. She doesn't directly heal herself. So, uh, being able to protect Matsuri from big hits, specifically while she has the first player token, is something that you kind of need. And Urase does that kind of the best out of all the characters with the taunt. Luca
Absolutely.
can do it, but if you put that on Luca, Luca will be dying really quickly.
Right.
Urase can do that and then keep himself relatively stable for the other two characters to go do whatever they need to do, and then Matsuri can heal everyone except for herself, and you just need to make sure that she gets protected. And Arasa does a really good job of doing that, and that's a showcase of how defenders work. They're really good at choosing one target and keeping them alive. And unfortunately, we didn't have a situation where that existed before, and Matsuri kind of enables that kind of playstyle to work really well.
Yeah. I definitely agree. You know, and part of me like wants to say like, yeah, Kemuri is like another great target for that, but in Kemuri's case, you have to be in bear form and then have an extra blue mana. And while that's going to work just as well, considering that his duration can technically exceed the mitigation from Titan Shield, you're not going to have that at the blink of 1 blue mana. So it's going to be like
Yeah.
kind of like a, you know, like a, how do I say? It's not as overall efficient because the way that Urase and Matsuri's composition would work, I think jumping onto what you said earlier, the other 2 character slots are not just reliant on the healer and the tank doing what they want to do. The other 2 slots can do whatever they want. That can be, you know, Elizabeth batterying another DPS, or you know, two DPSs just kind of like working with their kit, right? Myra setting up for a big hit on the next turn. She's already not going to get hit. Kemuri going into that aggressive cat form, like if he gets hit by a party wide, so what? He's going to do an extra damage back anyway. And now you've got like 2 slots that are like, oh, and Kune, etc., right? Like these DPS slots or these extra 2 party slots are now totally independent from either each other or the core that is Matsuri and Urase. So I think that's going to be a really, really neat strategy to experiment with when the game launches next year.
Yeah, and I think that's something you picked up on with Kamuri. We'll go into Kamuri next. Is that Kamuri brings a lot of utility to the board, and he does have a taunt. It's really good, and it can exceed the value on Urasa's taunt if you set it up. The thing about that is you trade away efficiency for utility. He needs to spend a turn to transform into a thing. Does that give him a lot of benefits? Yes. But unfortunately, you spend a turn doing essentially nothing. You need to spend then a later turn to do the taunt. And that taunt gets less and less valuable as you get farther into your duration on the ability. So managing the secondary resource, like the form transformation, is going to be an important part of Kamuri, and also one of his weak points. Because, again, characters can't just be great at everything. So a character that can do attacking and defending needs to have vulnerabilities. And that's where they're baked in, is that he needs to maintain this resource in order to be these things. And when he's low on it, it's kind of less effective.
Absolutely.
So on that note, Kamuri.
Yeah, Kemuri's best buddy. Who am I going to pick?
So we just talked about being super utility.
Right.
So you could address this 2 different ways: as an attacker or as a defender, or just as a specialist. So 3 different ways.
And I think the way that I will go here is probably from the outset. I'm going to look at this from an attacker perspective. I do think that a supporting unit that can help mitigate like ailments from the boss, right? So a healer of whatever sort. He doesn't really need battery. I feel like he has a lot of like good efficient mana skills, so he doesn't need that extra like point usually. Like usually what I like to do is, build up a couple mana, spend it, and then have a lot to do in my like form rather than turn around and like, I'm gonna punch and I'm gonna immediately transform, and now I'm gonna be a sitting duck and let my passives do the talking. I think that he is pretty self sufficient for the most part. So I think his best buddy. I think his best buddy is going to be probably just someone who can mitigate ailment mitigation, and that's what I'm gonna put it at. I don't think he has a best buddy in my current like purview of the cast.
So I think in terms of an attacker, he's really good as like a second attacker. I don't mean
Yes.
like secondary attacker because there really isn't primary and secondary attackers,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he works well with another attacker because you can be in that like let's run double attackers mode, and you can also switch to, hey, someone's about to die. I need to go into bear mode and make sure they don't.
I need to do my job and
Um,
save the
as
team.
long as it's
Yeah.
not me. Or it could be me too, right? Like it could be I'm about to die, I'm gonna do that. So
Yeah.
another character who's self-sufficient, like Thoro, might be good to run with. So you have two attackers who have this like panic button, so you can run maybe like a specialist and one healer, right? And then that'd be
Mm-hmm.
the single healer comp where you have two characters now who have a kind of panic button that doesn't require as much setup as Charlona. Charlona has a panic button, but it's kind of a you need to set
You
up
spend
everything
the whole
first.
game getting to her panic button.
Yeah.
It's more of like an
Whereas
insurance
Thoro has like
button.
a one. Yeah, whereas Thoro has like a one mana panic button. It's like, okay, it's my turn to get hit. I'm at one health. Panic button. Uh,
Yeah.
and Kamari kind of does that too. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be in tiger form the whole time. I'm gonna be hitting them. I'm gonna get down to 2 health, and I'm gonna switch over to bear form, so that I have more time to recuperate. I don't heal myself, but that's where the healer steps in and heals me, and then I can use duration to maybe taunt for someone else while I'm sitting there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to look at it. I didn't think off the top of my head that I would, have like a specific character that I would suggest, but Thoro is a great suggestion. And I'm trying to think who the best buddy for my girl Suika is. But we'll get to that later. We still have
I know who the best buddies.
who is it?
Myra. It's the healer, secondary healer.
Oh yeah. Somebody who can like heal me like when I hurt myself, and I'm just gonna keep. Well, the other issue is that she also is like a mana, like super mana hog, so she really needs
Mhm.
like assistance from the whole team, and it's just kind of like you have to build a whole thing around her. It's just hard to do because you need all your character slots.
Mhm.
Whereas some of the right, we're talking about buddies. We're looking at these like twin pod like strategies that you can either combine or you have to forfeit those strategies and go for the whole team comp overview.
Yep. All right, Myra.
Yeah, Myra. I mean, shoot, dude. I think she's kind of like she's almost like the jack of all trades. Like I feel like she's this character who you look at her and you go, "Wow, she's got it all." If I had to pick a buddy, I also, oh man, everybody's best buddy's a freaking healer, dude. No. I think uh hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say a healer because that's such a cop out. But I don't know.
You
Maybe like
know,
she's
someone.
such a strong attacker, she doesn't need a dual attacker like someone else who's also dealing damage at the
Mm,
same time. So maybe the answer is Kune, or maybe the answer is someone
maybe.
who isn't self-sufficient that the rest of the team has to look at, like Suika, like um, like I don't want to say Matarado's not really poison resistance, but that's for
I don't think I've
Matsuri.
given you this hot take.
No, you
yet about
haven't.
it.
The only thing I can think
Uh,
of is someone who is a technical attacker like Kune, who can do more utility like things. Because Myra
I'm
does
coming
so
at it from
much.
a different angle.
Okay.
So there's two ways to look at it. The first is Cloud of Fortitude, which is I need secondary ailment removal, uh, which is useful. So like definitely Cloud of Fortitude's really good for that. I'm thinking Elixir of Confidence. Elixir of Confidence makes her kind of almost self-sustaining, not quite, but she needs a lot less help in order to live when you're
Right.
playing that.
Looking at
So
the
another self-sufficient character that would allow you to run only one healer and maybe even like a specialist instead of a defender. Okla.
oh, bless. Yes.
Because then you have your front line, right? You have your DPS, Okla and Myra, who have good damage output. Okla's damage output's actually kind of nuts
It is.
for a balanced character. She's really strong, but they're also both kind of self-sustaining. They both have secondary ailment clear, kind of, baked into their kit. They both have ailment clear, like selfish ailment clear baked into their kit. So having them like both be self-sufficient, so you can run maybe an Elizabeth, maybe another specialist, maybe a Kimmery, who cares, right? And then
Yeah.
one healer allows you to say, all right, I'm investing into power, and instead of running attackers who kind of like are very selfish and not self-sustaining and struggle a lot with incoming attacks, so I have to run two healers or healer defender or like all this other stuff to make them viable. I can run these two that output damage and can recuperate themselves so that I can focus less on healing with my other party members.
That is a excellent take. Did not think about that at all. Uh Okla. Okay, I said earlier that my favorite character is Suika. I think the best character from the base game is Okla by almost a mile. Right? Like we've talked a lot about like Monad and Galateo are really good. They're healers. They're really important to every composition. Okla, every time I've taught people Wild Hunt Festival, oh, I want to play that one. Can I play that one? And
Yeah.
like in the back of my head, it's like you've got the best charge attack 3 in the game. Right, from a design perspective, we've talked a little bit about like charge attack 3 kind of being like the creme de la creme of a lot of characters' charge attacks. Best charge attack 3 in the game. You're doing damage, you're getting mana, you're healing yourself. You've got a fun skill 3 that costs like 1 mana and you get to do like damage based on the 2 dice you roll. How much fun is that? You've got a different level 3 that lets you roll 2 dice and pick your charge attack. Like, it's amazing. Okla is so good. The self-sustain built into Thorn Seed, I mean, maybe I didn't need to explain all of this for people, but like, Okla's really, really good. And I didn't even mention Time
But
Reading Dove, right? Like, people normally don't even look at that.
yeah.
But Myra's only weakness is getting a second mental ailment.
Oh yeah. And if you get locked by Myra, that's the unfortunate part is you get stuck.
Right.
Um, it's hard to do, or it's it's not hard to do, but like if you're playing Myra with any sense of like following through what you're supposed to be doing with her, most of the time you don't get locked. Sometimes you will. And when that happens, having another ailment clear is nice. Time
Yeah.
Reading Dove is just a good utility to have in case something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Your solo
Okla,
healer comp, you need Time Reading
yeah.
Dove around, because if a healer gets a mental ailment, you're pretty much out of the game.
Right. If your Manag gets confused, then there's no saving her, and that's what Time Reading Dove does. Uh, so it's nice, and I think everything you said about Okla is kind of correct for the most part. When you're running a double healer comp or a lot of comps in the original game, Okla kind of doesn't shine because her damage output and like her utility is a little bit lower in terms of everything. She just has like she does it all, but not very well.
Right.
Um, that's why she's like really good at sustaining. She does damage, but like not as much as a Kune or a Moderato. So being able to use her as a secondary, like have two self-sustaining attackers, essentially elevates the rest of your team to not be so focused on healing. And I think Myra and Okla paired together to showcase that the best that we've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I didn't I didn't think of Okla at all. You know, she's just this like rock of a single character slot. And I think that is a
Hmm.
excellent way to look at her. At least like, you know,
Yeah.
in terms of team compositions.
Yeah, and balanced characters has been really interesting to talk about in terms of that because Okla is like a rock, right? She's self-sustaining. Myra is kind of like that, but she's more an attacker
Yeah, no,
than
definitely.
self-sustaining. Her self-sustaining isn't quite as good. We have another balanced character coming in the future who I want to say is not as self-sustaining, but provides a little bit different utility to the team.
I think the name of the game with that one is um he loses out a little bit on that sustain, but picks up some of that utility that a balanced character would be expected to have. That you know, Okla
Yeah,
doesn't have. So I think that's going to be another really
yeah,
interesting addition to the balance roster. You know, because we don't. That's
right.
Okla's the only
Because
one.
Okla, she has time reading dove, and that's like all her team utility. Everything else is selfish. And while a balanced character, I guess, is, I'm selfish, I can self-sustain, we wanted to make a balanced character who had a little bit more utility because, there are four different roles in the game, and balanced characters are supposed to be, or four different non-balanced roles in the game. And balanced characters are supposed to be kind of showcasing all of those roles. So we wanted to make a balanced character that focused more on the specialist side.
Yeah. So very excited for when they come around, but of course we will talk about that when we get closer. Um,
Right.
for now, unless you had any other extra added thoughts, or maybe we could bug Bradley, who's still in the chat, about his favorite character and/or team comp. Um,
We got two more.
who am I missing?
Rui and Harno.
Oh my God, you're right. You know, I kind
Yeah.
of I stopped thinking about them because I didn't want to, you know, I don't want to give them away too much. But yeah, Rui and Harno. Who you want to start with? Probably Rui because we
So
always say her name
we're
first.
not going to go. I guess so. So we're not going to go too far into the specifications of what they do yet. Um, we'll talk about some of their abilities, but like, don't expect a full rundown on this section. But we're going to talk about their buddies. Who is the best buddy for Rui?
Oh man, what is her weakness? Um, when I look at that character, oh dude, it's just gas all the time, man. She also is another attacker who has um selfish utility to start, and then later on can have a little bit of like team utility. But I think for the most part, again, a technical a technical either attacker or specialist or someone who can um debilitate the boss further than her utility will be able to do. I think you understand where I'm going with that a little bit, right? So I'll spoil a little bit. Rui, on one of her attacks, has the ability to reduce the rage meter by one, which is something that you normally see on, what is it? Like
Moderato and
Madarado's charge
Galataeo
attack
Surrogate.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah, so something you don't really see terribly often. So I think someone else that can also either debilitate the boss or shield allies is probably going to be her best buddy. I have not put any thought into this at all. So I'm going to
So
say,
I
uh,
was thinking
mm,
Elizabeth.
yeah, sure. Um,
And there's kind of like three reasons as to why.
okay,
The first is mana. Rui is kind of mana hungry, kind of not. It depends on your other resource. Rui has to manage like three different resources to function,
yeah,
which is kind of interesting. Because she only has two resource meters. It's mana and then this other one. So why do you say three resources? Well, one of those resources gains based off your basic attack buff too, sometimes. So having access to basic attack buff helps you build a resource better. Having mana lets you use that resource better. So Roar of the Dragon Slayer kind of really helps enable Rui into doing what she wants to do. Uh, March of the Nameless also very useful
Giving
for
her
that.
multiple actions, which allows her to even pump even faster through her like game plan. Yeah, that's gonna
Hmm.
be really big.
Yeah, so access to basic attack buff. Because I believe Rui doesn't have that much basic attack buff gain in her kit.
Uh,
She has like one charge attack
I
that
think
gives
she
it.
has. Yeah, I think it's on her charge attack 6, and that's like it.
Yeah, she has like one or two charge attacks that give her basic attack buff. It can be used for resource generation. So having someone give her basic attack buff can be very useful. And we don't have that much instance of that yet. Jake and I like to play with the basic attack buff track because there isn't much that does it yet. So
Yeah,
we like to give people access to basic attack buff. Um, and so having characters that use it made sense to us, and that Rui and Harnu both show that. Rui uses it in a very interesting way, and that is by building her meter, her energy, or whatever we're gonna call it. Um, and then the mana is useful because she is kind of mana hungry in some of the cases. Sometimes she doesn't need mana, but in order to be useful, she needs to have at least a certain amount of mana.
right. Yeah, so that's a great like a great way to tell as much as we can without spoiling too much. I'm sure once we get the finalized cards and stuff, we will absolutely do a Beyond the Hunt where we just go full frontal into like the content in Aria of Light and Shadow. But I'm really glad that we're getting the time
Yeah,
to, kind of sprinkle in some of it here.
I'm sure we'll post it in the update as soon as it happens.
Of course. All right. Well,
Yeah, we're still
Haruno.
waiting on some art pieces and the card to be finished, but we're getting there.
Yeah. But yeah. So Haruno. Um. Who, who is her best buddy?
Uh, so from a design perspective, Haruno is very interesting attacker. Uh, she functions in one of two different ways, and they're both kind of weird. Uh, her main goal is to help another character out.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of buddies in that way. So it's either an attacker that does a lot in like one turn, or it's someone else with a very powerful ability that you want to use twice. And also to have an attacker. So this could be a specialist that does something very useful, but not very often, or a healer that does that, or just something that you're okay repeating in a very useful level. So, of course, Rui and Haruno were kind of built to work together, and
Yeah.
it'd be cheating to say they're their best buddies because they are. And we're gonna try to use we're gonna try to use examples that aren't just the two of them together. That's why I said Elizabeth for Rui.
Right. Okay.
Haruno is a really good partner with Rui.
Yes.
Um,
And that is what
if
I
we're
was
not
going to
talking about,
say. But I'm thinking about it right now. Hmm. Well, I'll give my selfish answer first. The selfish answer is
Mhm.
absolutely Rui, because her final big blast attack getting duplicated is unbelievable. And I think that that is going to be what a lot of people will look at and be like, "Oh my god, you can do that again." And I think that is almost in a way how they were designed. But I do agree from a
Mhm.
design perspective that looking at other things and the thought process of doing those things again is huge and could be catastrophic in a number of ways. But I think,
Right.
like, at least from my like gameplay perspective, I'm always gonna look at that from the how much extra damage can I crank out with that ability. Like her kit is also really
Yeah.
cool. Like she does a lot of things on her own. Like I don't think she needs like too much support, right? She has a good way to like selfishly build up her resource and like a little bit of that mitigation built into like her health bar thing and like all these little things that allow her to kind of like do what she wants when she wants. But her big play is watching someone else do something, and I'm gonna vote big damage is big damage. So any attacker who spends all their resources and that's what they do.
Uh, I was thinking this might be a way for like Elizabeth's B-side skill,
Okay.
because we always talk about Fantasy with Cloudy Skies. The other one that gives +1 basic
Everybody
attack
basic
buff to
attack buff,
everyone,
yeah.
getting that duplicated again is nice. Um,
That's what?
Potentially some other things.
Net gain 8 damage? Like if
Yeah.
everybody just punches?
There's that. There's like Suika charge attack 6 you can duplicate. It can duplicate charge attacks, so maybe even an Okla
Uh
charge attack,
Star Colored Mallet. Because Gold
or
Coin
color
is the
mallet.
2 charge
Uh,
attacks, but if you do Star Colored Mallet and you roll a 6
then you do the
and
6.
you do the 6 again.
Yeah. So maybe Thoro.
Broken Dragon Strike, you
There
get that
are,
heal back.
unfortunately, I think you have to spend your mana with
Yeah,
that
you have
too.
to spend your mana, so it's gonna be it's a little awkward
Rough.
for that interaction.
But there's a lot of characters the Haruno could be good for. Another one that I think is really interesting is Suika.
Yeah.
Uh, if anything, to enable Suika's big attack to be useful, because we talked about duplicating, her other side doesn't duplicate, it just enables something.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So being able to do that might help. Uh, Very interesting. I'm not sure if like buddies works for her besides maybe Rui right now, but the plan is to have her do something useful. Actually, maybe she's really good with Charlona.
If you do the what is it? The Fire Earth Piercing 5?
So that's the interesting thing, right? Is Charlona's second skills spend 2 elements, which are hard to build up and have really useful utility. And duplicating those are nice because it's like 5 piercing damage and you take 2, which who cares? But charge attack 5 you can duplicate,
Mm-hmm.
which would cause you to gain charge, which gives Charlona the element. Or if you duplicate her skill 1, you do this amount of damage that Charlona spent earlier, and then you get another charge,
And you can give her the it's just like March of the
and you give
Nameless,
her
but
another
in a
element.
weird way.
Right, it's like a March of the Nameless where you're just doing it again. So like if Charlona spends 3 mana to do something, you duplicate it and you do another 3 damage and get another charge. That might be one of the ways to make Charlona's sword skills actually more viable. Yeah, we talked about Charlona being a little bit like rough around the edges because she can't generate mana or charge that fast. Haruno might help with that.
Yeah. It's all, sometimes some of these characters that feel a little clunky, it might just be a matter of finding them the right buddy. And that I totally, I don't really, when I sit down to play the game, I don't think in this buddy like two character interaction. I try to think about everybody as a whole, which I guess kind of leads me more to like characters that are selfish because I want everybody to be doing the best they can at all times, which kind of takes me away like from this way of thinking. So
Yeah,
yeah,
a fun
maybe
thought experiment. That's every character coming out, and hopefully a little bit of insight into the mechanics of some of the characters you maybe not have seen yet. Of course, we will show you them before you get the game, but until then, great time to think about what that means. There are some hints as to what people do in the story as well, so if you want to check that out, please do. Um, until then, I think we're done with team compositions for now.
yeah, for the last thing of the night, let's spoil a little bit of Rui's final art, shall we?
Yeah.
So I'm sure the big thing that all of you have been waiting for, if you've been watching this long, thank you. Shout outs to you. We appreciate you. We are now going to go ahead and show you the finalized Rui character art. As you've already seen her mock-up on the screen down there, for the like character pack for Aria of Light and Shadow. Her character art that is going on the card is going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to flash that on the screen right now. It's going to be between us in 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! There she is. Wow. I'm so pleased with the way she came out. The spear looks great, and all of her details, and the extra like sword and the dagger on her leg. Dude, the details are unbelievable. And I seriously cannot wait to see this on the finalized card art. However, we're not done just yet, because we had a little bit of a back and forth when this art finally got to us. We're talking about how it would look on the finalized card. So shout outs to my girlfriend for going through and taking an old character art that we had and slapping this onto it to give you guys a little taste of what she might look like when the final card comes around. So, one more time, please bear in mind, this is not final. This is not final. Okay.
It's absolutely not a representation of the final product.
This is not a
It will
representation of the
probably
final
change.
product. However,
And all the words are Okla instead of
this is
Rui.
literally
So
Okla's card art, so don't put too much thought into that. But yeah, doesn't she look amazing?
yeah, it fits really well.
I'm so happy. So happy.
I love the spear poking down into the empty mana symbols.
And it going up through the other side of the UI. Mwah! Incredible. So yeah, if you're in the Discord and you aren't watching the stream, pop the stream open so that you can see this. If you missed it, rewind it just a few minutes. You'll see both of them. But yeah, so that is just a mock-up, just a way that she could look when her art finally hits the card. I think that looks really cool and really accentuates like all of the detail that went into her character design. So very, very, very pleased, and shout out to Kathy for that incredible work. And very excited to see Haruno's final art as well, which is one of the pieces, or I think the only piece that we're waiting on now.
Yeah, Haruno we're waiting on right now. We just have like 2 other pieces we need to source at some point, but like they're really small things.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
Don't worry about that. Not characters, they're just like an item card.
Yeah, we have the item and the Akuna. I think that's it.
Yep.
But yeah.
So yeah, a lot of good things. We're gonna continue working through this. Once I believe this month is gonna be getting the final assets for the cards, and then we're gonna sit down with Win, I think, and make sure the book is laid out correctly. So we're probably looking to start samples next month, I want to say, aggressively. And once we get there, it's a run through on how much we need, what we need, if samples are going well. We're definitely going to have to look at the battlefield die because we want that to look really good.
Oh yeah. Very
so
important
it's
piece.
gonna be a lot of work from here, but we're ready to do it.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I think that pretty much wraps it up for us this evening. If you have any final send-offs or any extra things you'd like to talk about.
Just keep looking out for more updates.
Couldn't have said it better myself. But yeah, no, thank you guys so much for watching, whether you're watching us live, shout outs to you guys in the chat, or if you're watching us on playback, we appreciate you very much. We will see y'all, let's see, so dates going forwards. A week from today when this aired, I do believe is the Where's Blade Kickstarter release date. Get hype for that. That game is going to be so cool. We recorded the live play. It was amazing. Cannot wait to see you guys for that. Next Friday, the 29th, is our monthly game of Shin Megami Tensei, so check out that. That's really cool as well. And, of course, we will see you again next month for the next episode of Beyond the Hunt. So, as always, stay frosty, adventurers. We'll see you later.